Okay, so like imagine AI that can actually like think through problems, you know, like really grapple with stuff almost like we do. That's kind of the future that NVIDIA is building towards. And it might be a lot closer than we think.
Yeah.
We're deep diving into an article today from the Motley Fool
Yeah.
about their wild success and this new technology that could like totally change what AI is capable of.
Yeah.
Pretty cool stuff.
It's wild what they're doing. I mean, they're not just like riding the AI wave. They're like building the engine that's powering the whole thing.
Right.
And their financials prove it. Record revenue over $39 billion last quarter.
Wow.
That's a 78% increase year over year. They crushed earnings estimates, too.
Yeah, they seem to be just blowing everyone out of the water. So how are they doing it? What makes NVIDIA so special?
Well, it really comes down to GPUs, graphics processing units. These are like the workhorses behind AI. They can process tons of data super fast.
Okay.
You know, like when you train a large language model, it's like teaching a computer to understand and speak like a person.
Right.
It takes processing like billions of words and ideas.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA makes the most powerful GPUs out there.
Right.
That's why they control so much of the market. It's like they're selling the shovels in a gold rush.
That's a great analogy. But didn't I see something about a startup training AI models on cheaper chips? I feel like I read something about a company called DeepSeek, and it caused some concern, right? Like people were worried about NVIDIA.
Yeah, you're thinking of the DeepSeek challenge.
Right.
And you know, it's an interesting point. It highlights a really important difference in how we think about AI development. Finding ways to make training cheaper is definitely important. But the real game changer is inference.
Inference. Can you break that down for me? What does that even mean?
Okay, so think of it this way. Training is like teaching a kid to read, you know?
Okay.
You give them the basics, the alphabet, grammar, all that. Inference is what happens when they take that knowledge and start reading and understanding a new book on their own.
Ah, I see.
It's about using what they know and applying it to new stuff, making decisions, basically reasoning.
So it's not just about memorizing. It's about using the data to solve problems.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where NVIDIA's new technology, Blackwell, comes in.
Yeah.
It's designed to be amazing at this reasoning inference, which actually takes way more computing power than simpler AI tasks like training. NVIDIA's CEO even said that most of their computing power is now focused on inference. That's a big sign that they see this as the future of AI.
So while others are focused on just making AI training cheaper, NVIDIA is already building the foundation for AI that can actually think. That's fascinating. Tell me more about this Blackwell. What makes it so powerful?
Well, imagine a really high-tech Lego set for building AI brains.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Blackwell is. It's a customizable platform with 7 different chips, tons of networking options, so it's super adaptable to whatever you need it for. Need to process images, there's a chip for that, natural language, another chip. It's all about matching the hardware to what you're trying to do.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's a platform that you can mold to fit specific AI goals.
Right.
Okay, I see the potential there. But how does it actually perform? Does it live up to the hype?
The numbers are pretty crazy, like 25 times higher token throughput than the previous model. So basically, it processes information 25 times faster, and it's 20 times cheaper to run.
Wow. Those are some serious improvements, especially with how much data these AI systems have to deal with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And the market is noticing, too. Just in its first quarter, Blackwell brought in $11 billion in revenue. It's the fastest growing product in NVIDIA's history.
Wow.
I mean, think about Meta or Facebook. They're planning on spending something like $65 billion on infrastructure just this year.
Wow.
And they want to have 1.3 billion GPUs by the end of the year. That tells you how much demand there is for this kind of technology.
So they're building the brains for AI that can actually reason, and everyone wants in. It's pretty amazing, but what does all this mean for, like, the average person? Yeah, with someone listening right now. How could these advancements affect our lives and work?
Well, this isn't just about chips and data centers. This is a huge shift in what AI can do.
Right.
Being able to reason through difficult problems opens up possibilities we haven't even thought of, like in healthcare. Imagine AI that can diagnose diseases so much better than before.
Yeah.
Or personalized medicine based on your genes. Or in finance, algorithms that can predict the market with incredible accuracy.
It's almost hard to imagine. What are the limits of this technology? Where could it all lead?
That's the big question, isn't it? The truth is we're just scratching the surface of what reasoning AI can do. It's like we just landed on a new continent and we're starting to explore. But one thing's for sure, NVIDIA is a major player in shaping this future. It's exciting and maybe a little scary at the same time.
Yeah, it is. This has been fascinating. We've covered a lot, but I want to dig deeper into this whole concept of reasoning AI. Like, what does thinking even mean for a machine? And how is it different from how computers have been programmed in the past?
Great question.
We'll be right back to unpack all of that.
Sounds good. So before we went to, we were talking about reasoning AI.
Right.
And how NVIDIA's Blackwell is kind of changing the game in terms of what AI can do.
It is pretty mind-boggling when you think about it. We're used to computers being these, like, rule-based machines,
Right.
But to think they could actually, think, that's a lot to process. What does that even mean when we talk about AI?
Well, it's a tough question. I mean, it has philosophers and computer scientists all wondering the same thing. Traditional programming is all about specific instructions. Tell the computer exactly what to do step by step.
Right.
But reasoning AI is different. It's about creating systems that can learn from the data they're given, find patterns, and make decisions without having to be programmed for every single situation.
So instead of giving the computer a recipe, we're giving it ingredients and letting it cook.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay.
It's about giving AI the power to use its knowledge in new situations. Like, imagine a self-driving car at a busy intersection.
Okay.
You can't program it for every possible thing that could happen, a pedestrian walking out or a car turning suddenly.
Right.
But with reasoning AI, the car can analyze what's happening in real time and use its knowledge of traffic rules and patterns to avoid an accident.
So it's like giving AI the ability to improvise, adapt to the real world.
Exactly. And as these systems get more complex, they need even more powerful hardware. That's why NVIDIA's focus on inference is such a big deal. They're not just making chips faster, they're designing them specifically for reasoning AI.
We've talked about a lot of potential benefits. But what about the risks?
Right.
If we create AI that can think on its own, how do we make sure it aligns with our values? How do we know it won't be dangerous?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? It's something we have to think carefully about. Like any powerful tech, there's always the risk of misuse or unintended consequences.
Right.
We have to be very thoughtful about how we develop these systems. Ethical implications, transparency, accountability, it all matters. Human oversight needs to be a core part of the process.
It feels like there's a lot of responsibility here.
There is.
It's not just about how cool the technology is. We have to think about the effects it could have on society, too.
I agree. And we need to be having these conversations now while the technology is still being developed. We need input from ethicists, from policymakers, from the public. AI should be used for good, and it shouldn't get out of control.
So let's talk about investing for a second. Nvidia is doing incredibly well, but is it still a good investment now?
That's the question everyone wants answered. Their price-to-earnings ratio is 29, which is high compared to the rest of the market. People are betting on them to keep growing and stay on top in AI. But you have to think carefully about any investment.
So they're not cheap, but the market seems to believe in them. What should investors look out for in the coming months and years? What would show that Nvidia is on the right track?
Well, keep an eye on how well Blackwell is being adopted. If it takes off and keeps generating revenue, that's a really good sign.
Makes sense. What else?
Look for new partnerships and collaborations. They're already working with some of the biggest names in tech. But to stay number one, they need to keep growing their network.
So who they team up with is important.
Very important. And finally, see if NVIDIA's technology is behind any major breakthroughs in AI research. Are they helping to create really groundbreaking AI applications? That's going to be a big indicator of their long-term success.
It's amazing that we're at this point where something so transformative is within reach.
No, it's incredible.
But as we go forward, we need to be enthusiastic and cautious at the same time.
Yeah.
We need to understand this technology and think about its potential impact. It's not just about bits and bytes, it's about human choices.
Yeah.
And what kind of future we want to create.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
This has been an incredible discussion. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into NVIDIA and the future of AI. We hope you've learned a lot about this incredible technology and its potential to change our world.
My pleasure. It's been great talking about all of this.
This deep dive into NVIDIA and the future of AI has been quite a journey. It's exciting, it's a lot to think about, and honestly a little intimidating, all at the same time.
I know, right? It's a lot. We've talked about so much, from how GPUs work to the big questions about reasoning AI, it just shows that this tech isn't just about processing power, It's about changing how we interact with machines and the world around us.
So as we finish up, what are some key takeaways for our listeners? What's the most important thing you want them to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's not something that's just going to happen to us. We're shaping it with every choice we make, every technology we create, every conversation we have about it.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
It's kind of empowering and a little scary, too.
Yeah, it is. We have this huge opportunity to use AI for good, to solve big problems, to create a better world.
Right.
But we have to be careful and make sure it doesn't get out of control or go against our values.
It's a tough balance. We have to be informed and engaged, and willing to ask the tough questions. We can't just sit back and let the technology decide what happens. We need to be a part of shaping it.
I agree. And that starts with understanding the technology, what it can do, what it can't do. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be used in good ways or bad ways. The choice is ours.
Well said. It's a good reminder that this isn't just about, ones and zeros.
Right.
It's about human choices, human values, and the kind of future we want to build.
Exactly. The future of AI is still being written, and we all have a part to play in that story.
That's a great point to end on. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive into NVIDIA and the future of AI. It's been a really interesting and thought-provoking conversation. And to everyone listening, we hope you've gained a deeper understanding of this amazing technology and its potential to change our world. Thanks for listening.